if you want to know where the nitrous in your life really resides, it resides in self-awareness. It resides in your ability to understand we have a choice. Our brain is a muscle, and we can choose to surround ourselves from positive and like people that fit our family culture.
Hey guys, Craig over here with the Battle Plan podcast, and I have an esteemed guest today, Christine Beckwith, and she's coming to me from a blast from the past. Actually, I worked kind of under her management in a sort of way, and then she ended up dating my friend, and they are still together to this day. So we have a weird back history. So you're gonna kind of probably see a little bit of that unpacked today. But she is a stud, if I don't mind saying a stud in the literal sense, not female male, you know what I mean? But this day and age, I guess it probably flies, with everything going on. But I want to talk to you about, just kind of not the career, because I hate giving kudos to the people at the end of the day. It's it's a big when people talk about career and success, it's so easy just to see that. I focus this channel a little bit more on the struggle, the pain, the things that you went through that people can relate, and pull out those type of ideas and frameworks that people will work through. Now, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you help people in so many different ways, and I've only known you at the top of the industry, right? From when we worked together, I was in the mortgage business. This was before I was trading and doing all those other things, before I kind of had my name. And this is straight out of high school. I went to a couple different mortgage branches, and she was at H&R Block. And you were, what location was that? Just so we could start filling in the backstory here.
Yeah, I think our paths crossed when I was in Burlington, and I had two roles during that time. I was regional vice president, and I eventually became the senior vice president of sales for the mortgage leg of H&R Block.
Okay, so she was the head honcho, and it was really funny. Corey is my friend. Actually went to high school with me, and remain buds to this day. Was with me and got me into H&R when I was with another company beforehand. But that's kind of where the story starts. And I don't really want to bore you guys with our past, although it's fun and exciting, I'm sure. But let's take away some things that you might have went through. You're somebody you've had a divorce in the past. That's something that's in a backstory. You've went through multiple different companies. You've had your highs, you've had your lows. You've been in an industry you've really seen that. I kind of want to touch base on what the industry is forecasting right now, with everyone talking about the reset and everything else going on. So, I think there's a good interview for those folks that are kind of in the mortgage and banking industry, maybe real estate agents and things of that nature. I'm going to be speaking at her conference, the 2020 Vision for Success Summit in Tampa on June 28th and 29th. So if you guys don't have those tickets, make sure to do so. We'll put them in the show notes. But Christine, have at it.
Awesome. Well, first of all, let me tell you, the first time I laid eyes on this guy, I had a crush on him right out of the gates, because he's as beautiful as he is today. And I think men that are getting older are even more beautiful. So I'm going to start very inappropriately for this podcast, but I love his wife and we're dear friends. So she'll appreciate this. But Craig and I connected, he came into my space. And I knew right away that Craig would be successful, at anything that he did. My story is one of, I guess, just from the very beginning of my life. I was born in central New Hampshire. I grew up to teenage parents, and in a wonderfully rich home in any way that you could measure it from a moral aptitude level. We went to church, we sat for dinner, we prayed, we had all these wonderful things. Very safe home, very clean home. But we didn't have much, and I was in a predominantly economically wealthy area. So I spent the first 18 years kind of in a front row seat to a lifestyle that I could not participate in. And, it happens to work out in hindsight now that I realized that was an extreme motivator. It almost worked like a slingshot for me. Whereas I was pulled back for so long that when I was let free at 18 to go to college, I just flew out here I am, world. What can I do? And the next 25 years is history.
Were you picked on? Did you have anything like that?
Yeah.
Or was it just really just looking man, I wish I could do those things and I can't do those things? I mean, was it an upbringing like that?
I had a real emotional sensitivity to the lack. I think I don't know if other children feel that or how that forms psychologically within children's minds, but there's some shame associated with poverty. And I would tell you that probably drove me to become an overachiever in my adult life. And I'm happy to report, after 20 years of counseling, I've kind of regulated that a little bit. And that's probably hard to believe looking at where I'm at or what I do today. But so yeah, I didn't get picked on, but I had two sisters that did. I'm a middle child. Definitely. I was kind of tough and tumble. And I think I put off a persona like, don't mess with me. And in fact, one of my books tells you that I kind of looked at myself like the playground superhero. This is literally in my book, Breaking the Cycle. Whereas all of my friends were from my parents' socioeconomic, from the mill where they worked. And so we spent weekends with the mill families. And at school, those kids really got picked on because they didn't have the right clothing. And I just, every day at recess, instead of having an enjoyable time, for me, it became, who do I need to battle, to protect this girlfriend or this, kid. And so, I grew up kind of having to fight for myself, like making the world. I have a disdain today as a grown woman for people that read people by the cover. And that goes both ways, by the way. I think there's a lot of really successful looking people that are broken inside. And I have this way of seeing through that. I don't judge anybody. At the same time, I don't like being judged. And if you judge me, you'll probably get the butt end of my stick. But yeah, so.
It's amazing that, as we get older, you're a consultant as I am, and we work with individuals to, maximize their performance and whether that be a job or their mindset. There's many different ways that we can help people. But one thing that's always interesting is like, we just see things at the surface. And it's like, if you don't grind and pick and dig to find the root cause of this person's either motivation or lack of motivation, you're missing such big things. And I was in a conference a month ago. And literally the person, it was a fitness conference, and the person who I was impacted most by was, kind of like the psychologist that came in. And I don't think she had a degree, but she helps high performing men and women, that are just like at this like crazy level, but they are just like, kind of messed up inside. And I think we all are kind of messed up inside. And I think we all have this like, tangled web of just like things that we haven't unpacked yet that make us do or be the way we are. And some of that is to our benefit and some of that's to our fault. So it's pretty interesting to see that, you did have some upbringing that, gave you you mentioned the slingshot, but gave you that momentum and energy to say, hey, it's time I shine, instead of living in the shadows.
I will even very well said. I will even tell you that the very thing that made me a fighter in life and made me go drive and work hard, I would later understand that it was a profound part of my embedded learned character to overachieve and had something to prove, that actually also hurt my relationships and kept them at bay, and maybe not as meaningful. I had a lot of people in my world, but a lot of people that were working for me. So it was very hard to understand who were my real friends and who were, their self-serving wise. It wouldn't be until I had you mentioned my divorce. When I went through my divorce, of course, that feels like a failure. And I don't care, what the reason is for any human being, it's not a wonderful thing. Right. I happen to have a 1-year-old involved in that part of my life. I was at the pinnacle of my career as senior vice president at that time, with this huge responsibility. And by the way, an international spotlight on my role, because we were part of a Fortune 500 company, the biggest accounting firm in the world. And so I was, 2 degrees of separation to some of the, the biggest CFO in the world, the biggest CEO in the world. And so, I will tell you that I knew I couldn't get it wrong. Like at that intersection, as broken as I felt inside, as hard as that was for me, I knew that I needed to get the next part of my life right. And I knew that I needed to work on myself. And, I had a lot of shallow existence. I had everything a person could have, like the trophy case, the money pile,
the Harley,
the what?
The Harley,
a trophy. I would end up having a trophy boyfriend. It would be through just really experiencing some clinical depression, having everybody say, what do you have to be sad about? Like, let me show you what I have to be sad about. And I thought, yeah, what do I have to be sad about? Why am I sad? And I would spend, and still am, I spend 6 hours a month in counseling and coaching today. I am a product of my own, preaching. And I live that. What's that?
Coaches need coaches.
Yeah. Well, I want to, so I'll end my thought on this by telling you, I put in the work. I put in the work to go backwards through my life, to understand where I, as a child, learned certain behaviors, certain language, certain things. I began to change my language, which was terribly hard because I had an I language. I feel like I was always a good person. So I don't want to paint like, oh my God, I was this devil and I turned into this good person. I feel like I was always a good person and I always wanted to help people. But I think that my self-worth was developed through accolade and reward. Mm-hmm. And I had to get to a place where I could love myself. And that meant, by the way, stripping away a lot of things that I didn't do well. Learning not to embellish. I stopped gossiping. I made a pledge to stop gossiping. This sounds crazy. Like, I don't want to make you think I was talking about you if you're listening. But just people gossip. People, you don't even know that you're gossiping. Like, your mom calls you and wants to talk about a sister, and now you're gossiping, but you don't even realize you are. And so when I realized that my internal wiring, when I would get off a phone call or get off a meeting where there was someone else that wasn't in the room talked about, I thought, I wonder how much better I would feel if I took one principle on, which would be that I will never talk about another person unless I'm doing it to help or heal them, or help or heal myself. And I did that. It's been 4 years. I want to tell you, it was so hard the first 6 to 12 months to not do this. Like, I have girlfriends that I lost, not because I announced this, but because over time I probably wasn't fun to talk to, or I stopped picking up their phone calls. Everything changed for me. My relationships became more meaningful. My circle changed. I felt more self-love towards myself because I could look in the mirror and say, you're doing it. Like, you're figuring this out. Like, you're working towards your best version of yourself. I honestly think today I would not be with Corey still, 15 years later. We had a year where we separated. Our relationship was really in a bad shape. It's because I went on this journey and that I kept the good pieces and worked on the other parts, that I was able to get to a place where, we could truly start a relationship over and really have a shot at understanding and learning about each other in a different way. And today I teach this stuff. I'm writing a book right now called Finding Honor, The Journey to the Truth. And I'm going to be doing retreats on it. And it's about the human journey towards our best self.
Right on. Well, there's so much to unpack right there. I mean, she kind of just went on a rip on kind of like, her story and her arc. And so one thing that you're going to learn about Christine, there's no glass ceiling, right? As far as, she may look and talk like a female, but she doesn't act like a female if there's something to be acted about, right? And something that she's done early in her career was break that. She was rubbing elbows with the men when it was, really just a boys club. So, I mean, she was up there fast. She drives Harleys and she's not a girly girl. So, I mean, she was in there just getting it done. But you said something that I kind of want to go back to. And you mentioned that, when people look at successful people, and as you were at the time, had a lot of things, assets, if you will, and people define success by the assets that they carry or achievements that they may have had. They don't give it grace to the life or the mindset or the, mental energy or expenditure that happens in our lives as someone who's an achiever. And we get no grace for that. Think about like fat shaming, right? Take that, for instance, right now, you take a look at people that are fat or have more body fat. If we could be, politically correct here, they have more body fat than someone who doesn't. But if you go out there, if you're somebody who's a little bit overweight and you're saying I fat and proud and all this other thing, and they get praised for it. However, if you have somebody who's really in shape and they go out there and put themselves out there, they can catch flack for it. So it's kind of like, it's like a reverse body shaming. And it's also, it looks like the same thing that happens at the high level, because then you can't get grace from anybody when you're off or when you're having a bad day or having a moment or working through something, because people will look at you and say, well, what do you have to worry about? You got all these things. But, you know, that's part of the problem. You worry for everyone else.
You are like hitting on something that is a nerve in my world and in something in the world at large that needs to be talked about. And I'm so glad that this is an in-depth conversation that we're having. I, get asked to be on a lot of podcasts, and I hardly ever bridge the surface of a discussion to where we are, where there's probably going to be some meaningful help with the audience that's listening right now. I'm going to tell you something. It also made me learn all of this self-discovery and self-work, that I was the right person to run courtside besides people that wanted to be successful and to tell them to keep going. There's a book out there by Gay Hendricks called The Genius Zone. And it's really about people that get to this successful point in their lives. And then it comes toppling down. There's a chapter in there called The Upper Limits. And basically, we are not often, if you've ever had, I'll use some analogies, but you know how like Christmas comes, obviously, and if we give gifts, it's a great feeling. I never was really great at receiving gifts. That's just an example of this.
I don't like gifts at all. I don't like gifts at all.
So that's a whole phenomenon. Now let's take that to a competitive level. Craig just told you, I was surrounded by guys. I don't even think I knew till I climbed to the top of my mountain and looked back that, oh crap, I was only 1% female. I've had that labeled. I literally turned down an interview with the New York Times when I broke H&R Block's glass ceiling, because they wanted to do a story on my quest to break the glass ceiling. And I hadn't quested to do that.
Right.
So because of that, I was mad actually. And I was very much in, a hard spot. I wanted my 15 minutes of fame, but I didn't want it the wrong way. Yeah. And I'm glad looking back now that I said, well, that's come to me in a year. And if I run this company really well, then you can tell a story about that, because that's really, I've been here just 1 minute. I haven't done a darn thing worth writing about. Right. And I can promise you that my private parts didn't get me here. And I sure hope I'm not meeting some quota. So I say this to you because I had to get comfortable with success. So prior to my getting more morally, like I would say, really good, like, 100%. I don't know if there's 100%, but really, really high level truth, honesty, dedication, get rid of all the bad vices. I'm vice free today, 100% vice free. I've been for years, including quitting cigarettes for 7 years now. But what I will tell you that is getting successful, there's shame that is put on you by society for questing for success. If you become that person, to Craig's point, that becomes the physical fitness person from the fat person, now you're unpopular again because you've done something that everybody else is naysaying. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't think most humans are maliciously mean to other people, but I do think we are innately mean. I think I have caught myself being mean to younger women when I have this holier than thou kind of mindset, sometimes when they're doing foolish things, and I have experience and wisdom as an older woman, and I want to just, I think a certain way about it, but I catch myself today and I say, change the narrative, because I had so many mean women not help me in my career. So many. I'd love to write a book about all the mean women that never, ever extended their hand to open the door, which is part of our problem, by the way. By the way, if women worked on their own problems and didn't worry about the men, we have a lot of work to do in our own area to get even closer to where we are. So Craig's right. So today I'm here saying, you got to go for it, and you got to break past the noise that tells you to stand down, that you can't do it. Here's the statistics. You got to be willing to be unpopular. I have lost some really significant friends in my success that I would have considered lifers that are not comfortable with my success. And here's the other thing. I'm no different than anybody else. I am a girl from the hood. I've lost money in my lifetime. I've gone back to zero several times, had to rebuild it. I think that's most entrepreneurs' story, by the way. I'm happy that I have the grit to start over again, and there's this famous quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald that it's a child's quote, and it basically says, I hope you have the strength. Our wish for our children is that they have the strength to start over in life if they find themselves down the wrong road. And man, that is my theme. Like, do you have the strength to start over?
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of good stuff in that. And, if you are not, I just want to make sure that you guys check the show notes or just follow Christine and across all that she does. She's, how many books at this point? You're on your fifth?
I'm writing my fifth book now. Yep. Who knew?
So she's got a wealth of knowledge. And like I said, we've met, how long ago was this? 15 years ago, you said?
So Corey and I, it's 20 years we've been working together. I'm pretty sure I met you about 18 years ago. Right. I was doing the math today before coming on the show. Yeah. I mean, just like that, right? Blink our eyes and
that's
boom.
Crazy. Yeah. I literally caught myself saying I am closer to 50 than I am 30 at this point. So it's it's
hard to believe when I look 29 still, right, Craig?
That's right. But anyway, it's one of these things where if we take a look at all our success, I would definitely say the more you find at the top, you're going to find resiliency. You mentioned a couple different terms, grit and different things, but at the end of the day, I'm finding when I'm speaking about mindset, I think the strongest attribute that you can attest to a person's mindset is the ability to be resilient, because that's going to allow you to basically learn, live, and fail and get back up and do it again. I think it just encompasses that whole package. So, if I were to put a name on it, I would say you should strive to be resilient, because in any moment you're going to basically take with the best options provided for you. Some are going to be good, some days are going to be good, and some days are going to be very bad, but you're going to still have to pick yourself up every day with what you have and continue on. Because again, sometimes we have all of it and sometimes we have nothing, like you said. So talk to me about when you lost it. What did that look like? What was lows and what were the things that you did to climb yourself out of that?
Yeah. So in 2007 and 2008, the mortgage industry crashed. Mm-hmm. And of course, H&R Block was trading on Wall Street as a Fortune 500 company. And to spare shareholder price, we cut the leg of the mortgage firm leg off to save the body of that firm. And we actually got ahead of it. We closed down that division in the black. But, to build something for 12 years and then suddenly get the call one day to just take everybody out the back door and shut the lights off. I literally was the last man standing at H&R Block Mortgage. Myself and another gentleman that was heading the operations. I carried a beeper. This is so funny back then for the summer, for any inbound calls. But it was just like one day the call came in March of 2007, and we were on a phone call, national phone call. And this was pre-Zoom era. And we made the verbal announcement that we were closing, and then that was that. And so, it was devastating. I mean, over the years that would follow, it took probably every mortgage expert's piggy bank that they may have saved to manage the next few years. I actually, my safety boat looked like going to a small boutique shop in Boston, and that for a guy that needed a sales and operations manager. I remember my ego was so bruised because I had this big job. I was flying around with secretaries and I was being treated like royalty. And now I was managing this 50 LO shop, and I had to get over myself. This was a great, in hindsight, humbling moment in my life. You were
a peasant. You were a peasant.
I totally
only 50 people below you. You were a peasant.
Right. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you, it got worse because they were being fed a business a certain way. That dried up shortly after I took over. So the 52 went down to like 16. Now I want to tell you something. Of that original 16 people that were on that safety boat with me, 12 of them are still together in the same safety boat today. So we picked good where we went. We stayed there in that boat together, and we swam and we bailed the water out of that boat, and we rowed, and I picked a really solid, lean team.
I bet you I know some of those names. I bet you I know
Corey
some of those
Parker,
names.
Christine Scott, Christopher Sawyer.
Yeah.
Like, yes. And they're still there, dude. They are still there in that same boat. And they had to swim from some incredible shores. So, what did it look like? I would say the darkest hour, in the whole real estate industry, realtors were fleeing, homes were upside down, Wall Street was desecrated, Merrill Lynch fell, Countrywide fell. I mean, it was, it's historical. Movies have been made about it.
Yeah.
To have been in the helm of a company shut down and have to start over, I sat at a steak dinner. I'm going to tell you, this is the best tip I'm going to give you today. If somebody tells you they have a great idea, our instinct is to say, no, that sounds risky. Without even hearing it, a great idea sounds bad. I don't know why, when it's not our idea. It just does. But I went to steak dinner with two guys that said, we want to build a national company during the downfall of the mortgage implosion, pick up good people that are leaving other companies, do the Warren Buffett theory of building. Would you go on this ride with us? And I said, yes, I got convinced to do this. That was that pivotal moment in the last 18 years that I made the right decision, because I had that group of 18 guys behind me. Now, let me tell you, it was like we were standing at the bottom of a mountain, because they wanted us to go out and build real estate relationship. At a time, realtors didn't even want to talk to anyone. And so we did that on the promise of education. And I want to just, if I can leave one nugget, and you didn't ask me this question, but I want to share this. Education is what I'm fronting today at the company that I'm here doing. What I do every day is help bring education, educate on economics, educate on banking, we even do health and wellness. We have grief and loss counselors. We're educating human beings on stuff. I led with education in 2008, and I helped 200 loan officers go out and offer classes for free to the world of the real estate to learn how to do loan modifications and short sales and all kinds of things at the time that were brand new to us as well. And here's what I want to tell you. If you ever find yourself in an emergent situation, be the leader. Like, if you don't know, you can guarantee everyone around you doesn't know either, but everyone around you is looking around for the one person that's going to step up and say, I'm willing to go in the front. I'm willing to walk in the front of this thing. And you know what happened to me during that time is I didn't know where I was going. And I really didn't know what I was doing, but I did know that education is the universal language. Why did I know that? Because at 14 years old, when I went to high school to decide to prepare for college, a college that my parents told me they would not have money to send me to, I forged my mother's signature to go into college prep. They wanted me to go into business prep. And I watched the principal of that school have a debate with my parents one night when it was discovered that I had done this, and convinced them to let me be the dreamer that I was at 14 years old and try to get to college on scholarship with good grades and mentorship and faculty and extracurriculum. And what did that mean? That meant from 14 to 18 years old, I couldn't be a teenager. I think about that today. My son is 16 today. He's a really great student. But I was working jobs, and I was doing all this stuff. So I'm going to tell you something. I got to college on scholarship with this incredible GPA and working hard and kind of giving up my childhood. Because of that, I have this appreciation for mentors, for people that show up in your world and say, I believe in you. And so in 2007 and 2008, I became the mentor for a lot of people that needed somebody to say, I believe we can survive this thing. And I want to tell you, the gift of that tragedy, that tragic time in our careers and industry, the impoverishing of our incomes, you can't fear having nothing if you start from a place of nothing. I spent 18 years in the boot camp of nothingness. And I would argue really with great visibility to the principles in life that matter. Because all the materialistic stuff was stripped away, I can remember very vividly why I was rich as a child and not poor now. And so my whole narrative has changed about that, because I realize now, without education, my mom and dad got a lot of things right based on good old American principle. And so I've stripped my life back today. And today you're looking at somebody that is helping other people become mentors. We're manufacturing mentors in our field here at 2020. And it's a really fulfilling existence for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you hit a couple, I mean, you hit a lot of things. People are going to get a lot out of this episode, I believe. But, you mentioned, the 2008 crash, 2007, 2008 crash, and what it felt like. I have employees who work for me in a couple different businesses that I have, not any of them, none of them are as big as yours. But at the same point, people don't have a clue of what that feels like to actually have the ability and control over someone else's paycheck, not only your own, but someone else's livelihood. It's a gut-wrenching feeling. So I don't want anyone to sit here and listen without getting into that experience to say it's literally like your family member. You're not going to eat today. It's like literally taking, one of your dogs or your animals and be like, I'm sorry, you got to go. You know what I mean? That's the gut pit feeling that it feels like when you have people that believe and trust in you and you're sitting here saying, I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore. And I'm going to take your income away from you. And I'm not sure what your family is going to do for food for the table or you. And I just really want to put that in there because it's such a painful thing. Now we're facing this again, possibly. What do you think about that? As far as what's going on in the environment, I already see that mortgage, they're starting to slow down. I think housing is starting to slow down.
Yeah.
What do you think about the next couple of years here?
Economics lesson, and it'll make everybody listening feel a lot better. So in 07 and 08, you had low demand and high delinquency. Prior to 06, the default ratio for Americans owning mortgages was about 4%, which means out of every 100 Americans, 4 were going into foreclosure. By 08, that number had risen to 42%, and 50% of those people were people that had never had a mortgage late in the past. So investment, algorithms were out the window and they were retracting. And so because of the low demand, you had loss of equity in home. And so the whole thing becomes broken, right? So you are in a recession, starting of a recession right now. And so I want to unpack the word recession. Recession is the slowing down of. And so why? So we have rising rate environment right now. I would argue that we've had a falsely deflated interest rate brought on by a lot of American investment. Obviously, the White House with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, invested a lot of money, boosted those companies to get us through the last 15 years, and it's regulated. And we've been talking for a decade about it's time to kind of remove the umbilical cord, and now we're doing that. And you're seeing a regulation. I'm going to argue that's a healthy settling of the interest rate. We've been spoiled by these. It's dangerous for the rates to be where it was. What I'm going to tell you is there's high demand. So we have an inventory issue in America that's driving the price of homes up. So there's some inflation, serious inflation there. What I will tell you is I don't think we're in a massive bubble. We're in a healthy economy. The millennial is the biggest buyer, has been since 2019. They're at the beginning of their buying span. So that's probably going to be driven for the next 10 years. So we can pretty much know that the demand will stay in place. Because of that, do I think property values will regulate in the next 12 months? I do. But I don't think if you own a current home, you're going to see depreciation in value. Where it's going to depreciate is in the selling zone of new homes that are being overpriced out of the multiple bids that are occurring. That's creating that minor bubble. But it will pop that bidding bubble, but it's not going to be widespread. It's not going to drop value. Property value is still going to appreciate. It might not be on the up end of the scale. We see 5 to 20% annualized equity gain over the last 35 years. Probably it'll be 5 to 10% over the next 2 years. So guess what? If you bought this year and everybody told you were crazy, no, you're not. You're going to see property value still come up in the next couple of years. But loan officers are crabbing, and so are realtors right now. So we have this loud complaining going on from our industry. Why? because it was so easy for a mortgage loan officer to do a lowering rate loan. And it's very hard to talk what I'm doing right now, which is economics, and go out there and say to the $38 trillion worth of equity that's sitting in homes, what is your equity doing for you? Forget about the rate. That's not the conversation this year. What do you want your equity to do for you? And I will even say that people, most Americans have homes because of shelter. There has been a pandemic. We've had our kids in school in our homes. Our businesses are now in our homes. So we're not selling our homes as fast as we used to because it's our shelter and it's where we're feeling safe. So there's that effect is affecting inventory.
And here's one thing too, Christine, let me throw this in there is that if you were okay refinancing it or purchasing it at the price that you paid, then you should be okay if it goes down. It's just like if it's there, if you bought it for one specific reason, if you're hopping around and trying to flip properties, okay, maybe you got a problem. But I mean, as far as what it was used for its intention, a house to be lived in and have to be a home, then, and you were comfortable with the payments as is, when you brought it on, then you shouldn't care about the price at all. Just like an investment that goes down. If you're not selling it, then it doesn't matter. You hold on to it before you're going to unleash it at the right price, etc. But, guys, as far as the housing market or the property values going down, that's doesn't matter if you're a current homeowner with nowhere to go. And essentially, if it does come down and you do have to sell wherever, then you're going to be buying at something that's a discount as well. So, I mean, it's all relative inside of
it is relative.
That value.
That's the best point you can make. And I know you only know that because you've been a commodities broker and understand very distinctly how value rises and falls. I say all the time, if we were selling Dunkin' Donuts stock and we bought it at 25 and it was worth 100 a day and it never had been, we would sell some of it, if not all of it. And so we're at the high tide of equity right now. Everybody listening that owns a home, you should ask yourself one of two questions. Do I want to get the equity out because it's only monopoly money until I liquidate it? Or do I want to sell at the high tide? I know the objection is buying at the high tide, but I'm going to tell you, again, it's an investment. It will regulate. It will ascend. I know it will over the next 5 to 10 years. If not, come find me on any of my social places and we'll have a discussion and I'll put you on my podcast and we can talk about this. Yeah. But I know, I just was on MBS Highway 2 days ago, which is the largest economic forecasting. They've won the Crystal Award from CNN. And they had me on to give some market predictions, which I was really thrilled to get asked to be on that show. This is a robust market, both for homeownership. Be grateful. We got on our hands and knees and prayed for this market. This is the answering of those prayers, I believe. In 06, 07, and 08, we said, please give us equity in our homes. Well, guess what? We have a ton of it now. Yeah. So it is not a bad market. Anyways.
I actually pulled a move just because, with all the uncertainty, multiple businesses, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use the inflated house values at this point. So I pulled an equity loan out of my house. I maxed it out as much as I could. And I said, you know what? I'm going to have a super good credit card right now, just in case if this thing goes down, because now I know the loan to value was right. I pulled as much as I can. They're not going to lower that now. So I was like, I'm going to buy myself a good credit card and hang on to it.
You just bought yourself insurance.
Exactly.
Because all the people in 07, 08, and 09 that went upside down and had to foreclose, if you could have asked them, if we go back in time and in 05 and 06, we could have said, would you like to get the equity out right now? If they had, when their property values went down, they could have bought their principal loans down with the equity they had liquidated and didn't do that. So it is monopoly money until you do it. The other thing I want to tell you is everybody's trying to do payoff, pay down strategies. Let me get my payment as low as I can naturally, and let me get my term as short as I can so I can save my mortgage payment when I get towards retirement. Well, how about manufacturing the money that you're trying to get to in 20 years today? Why go the long road doing that? And why shorten your tax vehicle, make yourself, pinch pennies today? Liquidity comes from high revolving liquidity, lowest possible payment, which means longest term. Wealthiest people have the longest term. They get life insurance policies that cover against the objection of, I don't want to leave my family in debt. We all have that opportunity. Term life insurance policies, I don't sell them, but I tell you, that is the only thing you need to be a capital investor in real estate and manufacture the equity. If you have a home that you own for 10 or 15 years, you're going to see 2 to 3 high points where you should be taking that equity out, and you're still going to end up in the same position as the guy, probably a better position, I'm going to argue, than the guy that is not doing that, that keeps putting extra down, keeps shortening his term, and is trying to get to that 25-year finish line so he can save his mortgage payment when he's old. And guess what? He's doing it the whole time with no money in his pocket. I mean, it's just so. Anyways, I'm on my.
Yeah, we just turned this into a mortgage rant, but it's all good. I guess you had two people that
this
were
is good.
positive in the business. I guess I could rub elbows pretty good when I go to Tampa, then, huh? I still have it.
1,000%. And I'll say this about you coming to Tampa. Our culture here at 2020, when I got into the consulting part of banking and mortgage, everybody said, don't do it. In fact, one of the marketing guys at my last company came up to me in the hallway as I was on my last week. And he literally said, this is some stats I pulled about how many new entrepreneurs fail and how many coaches fail because everybody thinks they're a coach. And I was really like, wow, thanks a lot. Like, you know, I'm betting on myself right now and taking some big risk, and you're not in my corner. You're warning me off. But, you know, it was almost good that this happened because I went home that night and I admired this guy and I respected this guy. But I thought to myself, I am doing something that is statistically hard to do. I am doing something dangerous. But, you know, all my life I've known if you come with passion, my tagline here is emotional awakening through education. If you believe in yourself, it is contagious. You know, when Subway opened its fast food sandwich shop, Burger King, Popeyes, McDonald's, they all came out and said they were going to fail. We didn't need another fast food sandwich, you know, in a saturated world of fast food. But they were offering a niche, which was, you know, I'm going to be healthy. And they were getting on this tidal wave of health. And then Whole Foods said, you know, I'm going to come out and do a grocery store. And everybody said, we don't need more grocery stores. And then they took like 35% of the market share the first year they came out because everybody wanted to eat healthy. When I launched 2020 Vision, I came out and I didn't just bring financial forensic consultants. I brought health and wellness coaches. I brought grief counselors. I bought all these people that for so long had not been treated like people in our industry. They had just been treated like mules, like for manufacturing of money. And because I know our industry is harsh in that way, I thought I'll be the place they can come. And if they're going through a divorce like I did when I had nobody to talk to, if they're going through loss, then they're going to have a place to privately go and talk. Craig is coming because our theme this year is EcoVision, and it's what's going on in your universe. And we believe we know the things that you need to have in your universe. Health and wellness is one of those planets. We literally are going to have the whole room set up like a planetarium. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And one of those planets that should be circling your sun is health and wellness. And Craig is going to be coming on stage to speak to the audience about it as our representative in that area. So
good health is good business. That's going to be my motto. So we're going to roll with it. But awesome, Christine, let's leave them. And definitely I want to discuss some conversations about, you know, what your health, you know, practices look like, you know, in far as your organization as well as you. Yeah. I saw a post of hers the other day that she wanted to come in hot, you know, looking pretty good in Tampa, et cetera. So I might have to, you know, discuss what's going on with your fitness, but let's leave people with, you know, your best advice for the next year, as uncertain times are and things that you've lived through. What would be like a go-to strategy that you can take and be actionable, whether you're a mortgage broker or whether you're just somebody, you know, in the entrepreneurial field, somebody who's kind of just, you know, out there pushing it and hustling it? Do you have like a go-to strategy?
I'm going to start right from where you're saying that is a focus, and it's our mutual focus. I am 52 years old. I don't mind saying I'm turning 53 this fall. I went to college for sports medicine and nutrition, and I became a physical trainer for the first 14 years as an originator. As a 52-year-old woman, I run 25 to 30 miles a week. I have always been athletic. I lift weights. You know, everything on earth has come to battle me from a health perspective. I've had COVID now 3 times. I'm embarrassed to say. That's a conversation for another day. I don't know if that makes me sound too smart. I have had other health issues. I've had women's, you know, menopausal effects. And I say this to you, and I mean this wholly. I teach a class called The Power of Positivity. If you want to know where the nitrous in your life really resides, it resides in self-awareness. It resides in your ability to understand we have a choice. Our brain is a muscle, and we can choose to surround ourselves from positive and like people that fit our family culture. Our kids are watching, and they are learning, and it's so hard for them to unlearn bad behavior. So everything from how we eat to when we put ourselves to bed, to who we hang with, to our meditation, to how we read and understand the foundations of reading and writing. And so I live today in a world where I'm going to tell you that if you mind this vessel that you have, this home, this mind, this body, and you feed it well, and you protect it and create healthy boundaries from the things that come to deter it, live by a code of ethics that will not let you fall apart. Because I can tell you, I didn't always have those boundaries up. I didn't always operate from that code. And when I did, I had guilt and shame and things that affected my psychology and affected my health. And I wasn't as good as a business operator from there. From those key things, if you can get yourself centered there, get yourself into a place where you're going to Barnes and Nobles or any other book place, the mom and pop bookshop, and read things that are going to nourish your brain. Go to conventions like we have. Go to conventions that are out there. Get to the gym. Make friends with the people that are reaching in life, surviving in life, and having a good attitude about it. And by all means, stay funny. One of our planets is humor. And the last thing I will tell you is laughing is a medicine. I take life kind of lightly. I do a lot of things in jest. When people get too serious, I'll make a joke to try to lighten the room. We are bringing a comedian to our convention, to the stage, because we think that's part of the power. Your kids need to laugh. They need to see that life can be funny. And that's my advice. That's what I think everybody should do. Businesses will thrive if you do that.
Awesome. So, more or less self-help and fellowship. At this point in time, it sounds like you got to pour into yourself, because too many times we're pouring out. We're just constantly pouring. And Wendy and I kind of go into this, my wife, Wendy, for those of you listening, too much, are we just pouring out our cup? And then what happens is we just never fill it back up. So it's like you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think a lot of people, do that, and then they're just empty, and then they just find themselves lack fulfillment. At the end of the day, they're stressed and have anxiety. They wake up in the same stress state, and that's why our bodies break. We're just always in this position where we're just pouring into something and not giving ourselves that back. And we'll definitely get into that as far as what I talked about in our conference in Tampa, or the show in Tampa there. But thank you, Christine, for coming in. We're going to wrap this one up today, right now. Where can they follow you? What is the best place for them to get a hold of you if they want to discuss your business, or where can they, just learn more about you?
I would love everybody to join our Facebook group, 2020 Vision for Success Coaching. We have about 2,500 people that are in there now. We're maxed out in some other areas on Facebook, so I'm sending everybody there because it has an opportunity to grow. We're maxed out on LinkedIn. It's under my name, Christine Beckwith. You can follow us on Instagram, 2020 Vision, as well as Twitter, same thing, same handle. Our website is visionyoursuccess.net. And if you want to come see Craig live, it's 2020visionsummit.net, 2020 visionsummit.net. We would love to see you there. And thank you for this opportunity. And Craig, I just want to end by saying you keep rocking it, because you're someone I look up to. I have always appreciated who you are, what you are. There's never been a time that you've ever visited me that I wasn't left inspired by what you're doing. My son idolizes you. I told him I was doing this today, and he told me,
Jagger a shout.
I will. I'll tell you hello. And so anyways, we love you, and we can't wait to see you in a month.
Awesome. So much. Thank you so much, guys. Christine Beckwith just gave you a show. Hopefully you guys give a chance to follow her, get in her group, and just be inspired by what she does and the other coaches that she's mentoring. She's just had a life of success at this point, and there was nothing holding her back. Glass ceilings, they didn't exist. She busted right through it. So thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Craig.